are now entering the box. All right, Brad and Chris with Peerless Restoration and Cleaning. Welcome Inside the Box.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Be here.
Yeah. So, Peerless Cleaning and Restoration. Give us a little breakdown of what that business is exactly.
Yeah, so we're originally from Decatur. Started back in
Nice.
1946 or 47, I believe. I always get those dates mixed up. But Harold Bird started it, and originally it was a dry cleaning business. So dry cleaning, area rugs. They clean lampshades, lots of draperies.
Really? Huh?
Yeah, and then some carpet cleaning, and then in 1978, my parents bought it, and it had kind of evolved into more of a carpet cleaning, residential carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning. We're doing commercial carpet cleaning and upholstery cleaning as well, and the business grew over the years. Harold Bird had invented a vertical drapery pleater.
Pleater?
Pleater, yes,
Oh,
it's drapery pleater, which we actually still use today.
Really?
And so he kind of got the bug to promote and sell that across the United States, and that business really took off.
As
so
an entrepreneur?
Yes.
That's the toughest part. You're like, squirrel!
Yeah, right, exactly. So he wasn't really, I don't think, focused on growing the dry cleaning side of the business. And so when my parents bought it, I think there was maybe 3 employees. And then in 1980, they had a fire in the back of the dry cleaning plant. A dryer caught on fire. And adjuster came over, wrote my dad a check. My dad said, hey, who do we hire? And there were no local restoration companies. So my mom and my dad and myself and my sister cleaned up the entire building.
Went to work.
And therein lies how we got into the fire restoration business. And then
that's interesting.
Yeah, and so when you get into the fire business, and of course water damage comes along with that. Mm-hmm. He started calling on adjusters and agents, if you will, and just introducing himself. And the business continued to grow, and then got into mold remediation, which was big in it would have been probably the late 90s, early 2000s, indoor air quality.
Was there a specific reason why it was big then?
It was just with the way the houses were being built and
circulation or something?
Correct, yeah. And mold just became, I think people became more aware of it and started realizing there was a health hazard and things like that.
That's probably back when they were doing all the like I remember I had vents on my crawl space, and I don't think they do vents on crawl spaces now. But it used to be you had to open them and close them, and otherwise mold grew and stuff. So I wonder if that's like around the time that they were figuring all that out.
Yeah, it might have been. But and back then it was covered by insurance. So, so therefore, there were funds to remediate homes and buildings and things like that. Indoor air quality became a kind of a big issue with hospitals and assisted living centers. So we got into the commercial ventilation cleaning. So it just seemed like every 3 to 5 years we would add a new business line that kind of tied in with the other business lines that we had.
Yeah.
Back when the tornado came through Springfield, Chris.
06, I think.
Yeah,
right around then.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of damage over here, and there wasn't capacity, so the adjusters that we worked with over in the Decatur area called and said, hey, could you come over to Springfield and help out a little bit? So we started doing some business here then, and then we had purchased a building on Ogden Avenue, which is where the ID Sign Company is.
Oh, yeah, right over, yeah.
And started doing business here in Springfield, and then, we were in there for probably 5 or 6 years, and then we purchased a property on Spring and South Grand right next to Troxel Insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to, Security Bank was right there for a while.
Yeah.
That's kind of by my house, where I grew up, actually.
Yeah. So we have about 50 employees now.
Wow.
Fire, water damage, mold remediation, trauma scene, dry cleaning, carpet cleaning. We do commercial ventilation cleaning in hospitals. And then we have a contract with Boeing in St. Louis.
Cool.
So yeah, we do a little bit of everything.
It's nice how when you can get one of those big clients that can it opens up crazy doors for you, either other towns or places, what I mean? And we have one down in St. Louis, and having one down there kind of led to a couple customers down there, what I mean? And then there's an opportunity somewhere else,
Exactly.
So that's interesting. Yeah, it's funny. Real quick before we get into this too much, I always ask my clients that are business owners, hardest part of owning a business. So you could store that one in the back of your head. We'll jump back into that at the end of the end of the podcast here. But It's interesting all that stuff happened and what it led to. You know, I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason.
Sure.
Whatever it is, and sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it is good, but
right.
There's usually a reason, and it's kind of interesting that, you know, some of that stuff happened and it led to like, hey, we need your help over here.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a bad situation. Obviously, people's homes got destroyed and hurt, or you know, but it's you guys were able to help.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's cool.
Yeah, and then and what was really interesting is how my path crossed with Chris. So how many years ago did you own Finks?
19, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What was it you owned?
Finks Cleaners here in
you did?
Springfield.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell
the story. I think it's a great story.
I grew up here. I'm from Springfield.
Okay.
But I had gone away to college and then lived out on the East Coast. And moved back here in 2000, into 2002, beginning of 2003. Some health issues in the family, and so came back here. Didn't know if I'd ever end up back in Springfield. I certainly wasn't opposed to it, and I loved being back in Springfield. I've been back here 20 years now, but I came back and assumed a dry cleaning business that was in foreclosure. I was young enough and stupid enough to think, oh, sure, I could do anything, right? And actually, overall, it went fairly well. But I maybe had been back 6 months, was playing golf out at Panther Creek Country Club, and guys I played with had left. I was chatting with a couple of other folks getting ready to leave, and this guy comes strolling across the room, and I'm like, who is this guy? And what does he want? And Brad said, hey, I'm Brad Wike. I understand you just purchased this dry cleaning business. And he, as Brad does, he says it like it is. He says, I doubt you have any idea what you just got yourself into. And even then, as a side note, the world was becoming much more casual.
Yeah.
And so dry cleaning is even in 2003, like from 2003, and I sold that business in 2008, we saw the steady decline of revenue because the world's so much more casual. And then you fast forward to 2022, and you throw in a pandemic when everybody's working from home.
Right.
And so, but Brad was like, hey, if I can be of assistance, if I can be of help, so here's a competitor, right?
Yeah.
Who's offering to help. If I can help you with maintenance, if you want to come visit our facilities,
Wow.
talk to us about how we do things, I would be glad to do that. And I'm sure, I don't remember because I'm old, but I'm sure at that time I probably thought, yeah, who is this guy and what are his real motives?
What's your angle here?
Yeah. So I said, okay. He gave me his business card, and I'm sure he'll tell you his side of the story. So like 4 weeks later, I was like, is your offer still good? Can we sit down and chat? I need to learn some things from somebody who's been in this industry for a long time. And so that's how we became friends. And to your point, and it may be why Brad brought this up, neither of us believe that things happen by coincidence either.
Yeah.
And I think there was a reason our paths crossed that day. Now, I never thought that we would actually be sitting side by side, and I'd have the opportunity to help Brad, with his company.
Yeah.
And
but
here we are today.
What's your actual position then?
What is my position?
I don't know. We deal with that a lot. I'm like, well, they do this and this and this. I don't
know about your job.
I don't know what that title is.
So can I really?
Tell him. Yeah.
So in the summer of 21.
I'm a little unique in the way I do things. Some of it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
no, it makes a ton of sense. So, and we've known each other for 20 years. So and our relationship over 20 years has been a friendship, but we've also had a lot of business dealings in different ways. Brad was on our board of directors at Big Brothers Big Sisters when I was the executive there, and I think that's a time where we really got to know each other.
Yeah,
and Brad got to see how. Kind of how I operate and lead, if you will.
Yeah, so let me jump in here. I've been on quite a few boards over the years, and I have not ever been real impressed with some of the executive directors and how they handle what I call donor dollars. In other words, I always felt like many of the boards I was on, the non-for-profits, the executive directors didn't run it like it was a business. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And when I met Chris, we were practicing the Rockefeller habits and this one-page strategic plan, core value-driven company. So it's posted everywhere so our company can see it, and it's all right there. 1-year goals, 5-year goals, the whole shoot and match, SWOT analysis. And I said, hey, Chris, I would consider coming on your board if you'll just read this book. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you're all in on this one-page strategic plan and running Big Brothers like it's a business, I will come on your board. Well, 2 days later, he called me, said, I read the book. I've got about 5 pages of questions. When can we meet? And I couldn't believe it. And that's a true story.
Awesome.
That's when I knew, okay, this guy is, legit. And so there is really where our business relationship really started, or at least I feel like has been forged. And couldn't have been more impressed. And of course, what he did at the chamber is phenomenal,
So just out of curiosity, jumping back to when you guys ran into each other, were you in the bar at Panther Creek?
Yes.
Or something?
Yeah.
Were you just playing golf?
Yeah, I was playing golf as well, and somebody said,
same.
hey, and so I played college football, but not at the level he did. He was played at Miami, won a national championship for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I played, 2.5, almost 3 years at Western Michigan, and I just like being around athletes, and him and I call it the locker room mentality. People have that winning spirit, and I was like, let's go over and introduce myself. And I do believe that people's paths in life cross for a reason.
For sure.
But you've got to search for what that is.
As long as you're open to it.
Yeah.
You're out there putting it out there.
Yeah. So I just went over and introduced myself, and trying to grow our business network too as well in Springfield. And obviously the more people the more opportunity there is. And here we are today, which looking back, wow, unbelievable.
I read this book one time called Tipping Points.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's those one little thing where it changes everything. You go left or right.
Right.
You say hi or you don't.
That's right.
It literally puts you on a completely different trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he approached me last summer, 21.
Yes.
Yeah, June 21, said, hey, would you consider coming on board at
You
Peerless?
that was when you were at the chamber.
Yeah, I was at the chamber. And been to the chamber, I guess, about 7.5 years or so around that time. And I said, sure, I'll think about it. And I said, so what might it look like? What would my job description be? And he said, well, you really won't have one. He said, your job description will be, I want you to come in here and look around all the corners and behind all the doors and find the stuff that I have overlooked or missed over the last 30 years and fix it. Help us grow our business. And then over here on the side, I've got, my son Matt really well, Brad's son Matt. He said, I've got Matt Wike. And he said, if you would help me raise Matt, that would be great too. So
I've given him 23 years of my best shot, and he's frustrating the you-know-what out of me. So he laughed. He goes, are you serious? I said, oh, I'm dead serious. In fact, that might be more important than the other.
That's hilarious.
So I started right after Thanksgiving last year. Been there almost a year now, and it did a lot of calling on people from a business development perspective. Because of my years here, from growing up here, and then my years owning the business, running Big Brothers Big Sisters, and then the chamber, I have a lot of relationships.
Yeah, I was going to say, hell, being at the chamber.
Yeah, so,
businesses.
But I'm going to say, I don't know, 3 or 4 months in, Brad said, hey, look, you're already nostril deep into everything around Peerless and all of our people and our organization, and I was going to give you 12 months to get settled in, but since you're so involved in so many things, if you can kind of help us with this and anyway, and it's for me. Now others may disagree. For me, it's been a perfect mix of the things that I think I do halfway decent between being outside the company, calling on people, and building business relationships, and then being able to work internally on our organizational structure and with our people. And we're doing a leadership development. A weekly leadership development program with our leadership team and our up and comers in the company, and it's just been a great.
That's awesome.
It's been a good mix for me.
Yeah,
it's good to nurture that if someone's showing potential and stuff.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll continue to see fruit from this.
Yeah. That's probably a weird feeling, like having owned a dry cleaning business so long ago and then selling it, probably like, well, I'm never getting back in that business. And then all of a sudden, like, here we are, right? I mean, now it's much more, obviously, than dry cleaning, but did you ever think that would?
No. Now, I will say over the years, Brad and I, would occasionally joke,
Yeah.
like it would be fun to work together because we did in some ways with Big Brothers Big Sisters as a board member and board chair. But I'm not sure what Brad thought. I'm not sure I ever thought that'll actually happen, to be honest with you. But it didn't take me long to think about it. I mean, when he asked me to meet him for lunch and asked if I would think about it, I said, yeah, I've already thought about it.
Yeah.
And yes. And then we'll figure out the details later.
Yeah,
and I know that goes against the grain of what a lot of people think and say. In fact, we are asked this question often. What's it like? They always say don't hire a friend or don't go to work for a friend. And we had that conversation.
We did.
I told him my biggest concern was I didn't want to jeopardize a friendship.
It's a big risk.
But we have always, for the last 20 years, as we've built a friendship and a working relationship in other ways, we've always been so brutally honest with one another.
That's what I was going to say.
About things in our personal lives. And in a lot of ways, I think I would say we've kind of mentored each other.
No question about it.
He probably could have chosen a heck of a lot better mentor than me on most issues.
Well, we went through a lot of the same things, And
but if you just find someone you click with,
So
that's and I kind of it's kind of funny because like Josh, who used to work at the chamber, I met him a long time ago when at Simply, and he was selling us radio advertising, and I don't know, I just got along with him really well. I could tell he was on it. He was he seemed like a hard worker and all this stuff, and I'd been and that was like right when I was starting Oopbox right around then, or I had started it a little bit before that, but I just kept in contact with him over the years, and I wasn't making a lot of money, so I knew I couldn't pay him anything like he was probably making at the radio or whatever.
Sure.
And then when he was leaving the chamber and looking for a change, I was just like, here's I feel like this is the time. You got to come over because we've just been in touch, you know what I mean? And had that kind of good vibe. So I kind of know, I think I kind of feel what you're talking about there. That's cool.
And we had wanted to bring him on. So unfortunately, during COVID, the guy that had been running our company, Todd Garner, had been with us like 21 or 22 years. He died during COVID.
Oh, man.
He was 57. It was a bad deal. Yeah. And Chris, he knew Chris. And
awesome guy.
And
57.
And just had his hands like Chris does now in just about everything internally, and then also externally. He was heavily involved in business development and growing the company. And Todd and I had always talked about bringing Chris on. It was just kind of we were stuck at a certain sales volume, and we were waiting to take it to the next level so we could afford to bring him on, knowing that we want to be able to take care of him. So after Todd passed, I thought I'm just going to cool my jets for a year, and then I think it was just shy of a year or so, maybe it was a year, a little bit over a year, and we brought Chris on board. So it's been terrific. And kind of tying in with what you asked originally, the first question is what's one of the more challenging things about it. But nothing is ever as good or as bad as you think it is in business. But the minute you think things are really great,
take a turn.
And I'm the most positive, optimistic. Glass half full or full. I'm not half full, but full. Type of guy.
Yeah.
And I think there was like maybe Chris had been with us now 6 months, and we were having a meeting. I said, "Man, things are really this is internally.
Right.
Externally, nobody would know the difference, right?
Yeah.
We're still delivering clothes that are pressed well and cleaning carpet and getting great reviews from our clients and all this stuff. But internally, we were an absolute disaster." and therein lies.
Remember what he said though. It's never as bad as you think.
But so I was like,
what do you mean though? Well, from an organizational standpoint, or
we didn't have a lot of depth. We didn't have a lot of depth on our bench. We had no leadership. With the passing of Todd, it had taken about 2.5 years to really feel that. Right, he had his hands. He was mentoring a lot of people.
Probably doing things you didn't even know.
Had no idea. And And then we had a couple people, got sick and left. And just at the end of the day, I kind of looked around and there was nobody was really leading anybody. And so Chris came up with, why don't we look at doing a leadership class where we'd meet once a week for an hour and just read this one chapter. What's the name of that book we did?
The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader by John Maxwell book.
Outstanding.
Nice.
So we read a chapter every week in advance, and then I just kind of facilitate a conversation.
That's great.
Yeah, it's kind of like this.
Yeah.
It's just a round table deal.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
'Cause I read a lot of books myself that I'm like, man, I wish my team would read this, but I can't be like, hey, you guys are required to read this book. I need a book report. Or,
right.
But that's interesting. Like if they just read one chapter and we just have a brief conversation about it.
And it's an easy read. I would encourage you to look at it. It's a really easy read, and
I would say
real life stuff.
It is, and I'd say from the educational different walks of life. Okay, so we have technicians and cleaners, and then we've got Chris.
I bet you guys got a wide variety.
There's a wide variety of folks in that room, but man, it's amazing what just sitting and having a conversation for an hour like that. You learn more about your people, number one, and I was really surprised at how open everybody has been. It's been really outstanding. Like it's hard to
probably makes them feel comfortable to be able to talk about things openly more too and stuff.
I think so. Yeah.
Had your parents ever owned a business before they bought it?
No, great question. No, they had not. My dad worked for Illinois Power, which is now Ameren, and he was in purchasing. He did not like the corporate, environment, and he was owned some rental properties, and he was pretty handy. And then my mom sold real estate, and so that would have been back in the late 70s. Interest rates were really high. They didn't have they had no money.
People talk about interest rates now. I'm like, man, back then they were like 12%
No
or something.
They were.
I was like, I wasn't even alive, but I know that's how it was.
Yeah, and so he had no money, and he talked to a business broker and said, I'd love to buy a business. Do you know of any businesses in Decatur that would be willing to sell a business on contract? And
nice.
So I think they gave him 4 businesses. He picked the dry cleaning business, and Harold Bird and him hit it off, and he was off to the races. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So no real owning a business experience or managing a business.
No.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But he had some rental properties, you said.
Yeah.
So, he obviously
understood the concept of
was
revenue,
a worker.
And, very much so. And he handled all the backs, the stuff like he would do all the dry cleaning in the morning. He'd clean the rugs and the upholstery, and so anything production related in the back. My mom would press the clothes and wait on the front counter, and then she also did the books. So they were kind of doing a little bit of everything together.
How old were you when you bought the business?
I was 30, I think 35-ish, so I'm 53, 18 years ago. Yeah, 35.
Okay.
And I'd worked in the business my whole life. So I really...
Well, when he bought it.
when he bought it, I would have been 8.
Okay.
Yeah. 8
Do you
or 10.
recall, tension at all of both of them working in the business and owning a small business? Yeah.
That's all they talked about at the dinner table. It drove us crazy.
What do we do today? The books aren't doing it. It's like,
and my mom, if you knew her, she's a go-getter, man, and she'd be on my dad, about the employees or the customer. it was non-stop.
Yeah, and I know his folks, and I can envision it. First of all, they're awesome, great people, but I see the dynamics today.
It wasn't much different back then.
I can see it.
So, but it was. That's all it encompassed our family.
Yeah.
Wow. And when I was a kid, my parents were never home when I got up, and they were never home when I got home. They were just always working.
Yeah.
Weekends, my dad worked every Saturday and sometimes Sunday, fixing stuff in the plant. And
I don't know how. I've said this to people before, but it would be so hard for me to start this business right now with kids.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how people do it.
Right.
I just for the first 3 years of this business, I didn't pay myself.
Yep.
I worked 12 to 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And luckily, my wife also worked long hours. She's a hairstylist. So there wasn't a lot of why aren't you ever home type thing? Because she was working long hours too.
Sure.
But and now.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I got 3 and under.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah,
okay.
it's intense.
Yeah, it is intense. Yeah.
But I've made a strong, and I was working weekends because what I did is I started a photo booth business, rental business at the same time because random story how that started. I decided to do that, but I could tell, I did some market research and could tell that I could get this business going and make good money in the short term. It's not like a long term thing. You're never going to get rich off of a photo booth business, but it's good money.
Yeah.
So I did that, and on the weekends I would work the photo booth and use that money to grow Ootbox.
Oh, that's cool. By the way, how did Ootbox? How did that name come about?
I was going to ask the same question.
Is it an acronym or?
Yeah, it is. I hate like using it as an acronym. When people call me what it stands for, out of the box.
Oh, okay.
But I don't like when people call me out of the box media.
Sure.
But so it's kind of weird. But either way, it was. So I was at home in my home office, right over here on Providence, off of Old Jack. We had an extra bedroom, so I started it in there. And I knew I wanted the word media. That was the only word I could think of that had something to do with everything we were going to do. I was into photography. I was into videography. I was into graphic design. That was all stuff I just been into.
Sure. Did you are self-taught, or did you go to school for that?
I did go to school at Western for a little bit of that, but honestly, most of it I knew before I got there.
Yeah.
And no video, no video in school. That was all self-taught.
Okay.
But graphic design I started doing in high school. Video games, honestly. Okay. Back like little avatars, that everyone has on just regular nowadays on social media or whatever. Yeah. I was doing them on the computer for me and my friends playing video games. That's cool. And just kind of got into it from that.
Yeah.
But the media was the only word I could think of that kind of encompassed what we were doing a little bit. And I had turned my closet doors, there's two big sliding doors, into whiteboards. I worked at Ace.
I love it.
Yeah, I worked at Ace Sign before this,
really?
so I knew what we could do, and so I got some stuff from them, turned those into whiteboards, and just started writing on it, like what we were about, things I liked, the different services we were offering. I just covered these two. I wish I had a picture of it. I wish I would have taken a picture of these whiteboards. And one of the things I wrote was out of the box thinking.
Okay.
I just always liked that idea, like thinking differently. And that's what, in Springfield, like social media was just starting to like people were finally realizing like I need to be using social media. And even now, sometimes it's hard to convince them, but still.
Right.
Well, but we're always a little bit behind, and I'd been fortunate enough to travel. My brother worked for Microsoft, and I just been places and seen what was going on and was into it. I was joined Facebook back when you had to have a college email to even join it.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, I was just sitting there looking at these two boards covered in writing, and one of the kept looking at the out of the box thinking, and I was like thinking of acronyms. I was like, oot. I was like, that's kind of funny. Kind of sounds funny. Kind of like Google sounds funny. You know?
Right.
And I was like, I'm going with that, and I always liked the idea of the box with the dot too. You know what I mean? So. So that's kind of where it came from.
Awesome. Sounded like good strategic planning.
Yeah.
A bunch of things scribbled all over the whiteboards, and then make it all make sense.
I knew nobody would know how to say it. I'm like, nobody's going to say this right. And people always say like "ot" or something, and I'm like, it's like boot without the B.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that.
But I knew it would turn into a story every time too.
And it's memorable for sure. Yeah. And speaking of Ace Sign Company, we just did a tour of that. What a cool place that is.
It is cool, right?
Wow.
Great business.
Unbelievable.
So I had to do an internship to graduate college, and I didn't know where the hell to do an internship at. So I was just driving around and happened to drive by that place. Had never once even thought about the sign industry.
Yeah.
Like, somebody has to make all these damn signs out here. Yeah. So stopped in there. They ended up giving me an internship, hiring me halfway through it, and then I was there for like 6 years. And so I was there while they built out that new building, and then I worked in the new building for a year or two.
Yeah. So you were in the old building down at 4th and Mason, I think. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I was up in that little upstairs room there, and actually Corey, who's now one of the owners, but in the family, him and I started the national accounts division over there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we grew that to doing, I don't even know, over $1 million a year in business.
Wow.
And shipping signs all over the friggin' country.
I had no idea they had such a national footprint.
It's
unbelievable, right here in Springfield.
When I left, what's the statistic? We had shipped like 400 and some signs to like 300 and some cities in like 42 states or something like that. Yeah, it was crazy.
It's pretty cool.
And I kind of had a unique skill set because a lot of times if somebody's really creative, they're not like good people person or good with sales.
Sure.
And I've just always been, I delivered newspapers for 10 years. I was selling the
subscriptions. I saw your...
we saw your
paper bag.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah. So I had just had experience with that and then kind of got creative, I guess, a little bit more later on. So I could pretty much handle the whole thing. I mean, for the most part, and eventually was a lot. And they gave me a couple people to work with me and stuff. So
awesome.
it was cool. It was a great experience, man. It was super
yeah.
neat. You know, talking to subcontractors for installing signs and all these different things. It was
you know,
really
their
cool.
neon shop is really cool, and Corey's doing that now. He gave us a kind of a
And
demo.
they do crazy shit now, man.
I
It's
know.
crazy to see what they've done now.
Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that, and for them to be local. You know, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I had no idea you guys were as big as you were. 50 employees.
Yeah, 50.
That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
How many did you have when you bought it?
Probably, gosh, maybe 20, 22,
Yeah.
25, something
Deciding
like that.
when
Yeah.
to hire is one of the
That's
things.
a hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to
I know.
give up customer service,
I know.
but you also got to watch your payroll.
Yeah, no, and that therein lies the challenges in running a small business. You know, because we try and I always say that we built a company, or we built a company that if we need to act like we're a $12 million company, we want to be able to expand, but then contract real quickly. And because we're close to about a $5-6 million company, depending on, if Mother Nature delivers 6 to 8 inches of rain, then our business can double or triple, in 2 or 3 months real quickly. But then when that business goes away and you're back to just, doing your normal business of the day, so we have many of our employees are cross-trained in all of our divisions.
That's good.
But that certainly is a challenge. And you don't want to hire too many people because, obviously the overhead increases. And if you don't have the business to support it, that's not a good business model for sure.
Yeah, it's been interesting for me because Brad and I'd have these conversations over the years, and I would see kind of the evolution of how
you're
Peerless
you were
is
in
up
it before even you were in it.
Yeah, in some ways, but once you really get in it,
Right.
I've had now a cycle, a 1-year cycle of the business, and in the last 12 months, Mother Nature really hasn't delivered any 6 to 8 to 10 inch rainstorms in less than 24 hours, and those are the times where things just skyrocket, and you need all the people you can get. So the challenge of you want to hire and find good people, but then you got to keep them busy in the times when the business cycle's slower, and because you don't want to lose those good people.
Right, and if you've invested time in training, and
Yes.
you also don't want to kill morale, like firing people,
Right.
you're going to get fired, what's
No,
going to happen?
exactly.
People
Right.
stressed out.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and that's why I'd asked if your dad had owned a business or anything, because it's so much like learning as you're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't have a really good mentor that's done it or has a lot of experience, my dad was very smart with some business stuff. Never owned, maybe kind of did, but and my brother was really smart. So I did have some input from different people. But nobody had really owned a full-on business with employees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So even myself, it's been a learning process, man.
Yeah. And one of the things I'd say my dad was very wise at is he had me learn the business from the ground up. In other words, operationally, out in the field, cleaning carpet, sucking water out of basements, setting equipment, cleaning homes, packing furniture out, fire jobs, cleaning contents in the warehouse, maintaining the equipment, doing all the air duct cleaning like at Decatur Memorial Hospital back in the 90s, be 90, 94-ish, 95. Myself and about 8 other individuals cleaned the entire hospital. I was in there for a year and a half.
Nice.
Crawling through duct work.
Wow.
And
so he had you in it.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, so for me operationally, it was I guess easy to say, okay, we need to hire 2 or 3 people, and by the way, that job shouldn't take that long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to maybe starting out.
It's good he did that though. Not just throw you into you're going to be manager.
Exactly. Yeah. So then it was really I guess it made it a little bit easier for me to grow the company operationally without a lot of inefficiencies because I really knew what was going on in the field. And then I'd be on every job site. Whereas if I'd have started as a sales individual or somebody just in the office, I wouldn't have had any idea what was going on. So it's worked out well.
And I will just, double down on that because he's done every job in the company, he knows every angle of every job, and all of our people know that when we ask them to do X, Y, or Z,
he's done it.
He's done it. He's lived it. And that goes a long, long ways with folks.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, I have not pressed many clothes in my day. That is the one piece of the business I didn't really work a lot in.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're smaller and people are looking for input for you or like trying to perfect things.
Yeah.
You know, like giving feedback on, you know, videos or graphic design and stuff here. Like if I didn't know that stuff, I'd be
Sure.
like, okay, yeah, it looks
Right.
good.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, you know, one thing that's tough, and I wonder how much, you know, how quickly things change for you. But with us, the programs we use change very quickly.
Okay.
And since I'm more like right now working on the business instead of like in it, like unfortunately, I don't get to do as much like graphic design and video production as I used to.
Sure.
But now it's like I see this point happening where some of my team know these like different tools and stuff on these programs that I do an old school way. And I'm like, God damn it. Like I got to get up to date on these or something. You know what I mean? Does your business, is there a lot that changes with stuff like that?
Yes. Technology is always evolving. And Chris probably can, and I'm not as dialed in on that. And we have Jay Woodrum that works with us who's kind of handles that side of the business. But there's a lot of technology related to the restoration side as far as building design and, you know, sketching. I mean, you might be able to talk a little bit more on that because we've gotten into some new.
There's in every industry, right? Technology changes as soon as you think you have it mastered. It changes on you. Yeah. And again, all this is still somewhat new to me after being there a year. And I will say one of the other things Brad does really well is he invests in our people, in our employees with training. Our industry standards will send folks away to water school, fire school, mold remediation, so on and so forth. And he wanted me to learn those things and be certified in those things when I first started. And so I spent some time away at school, which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
And, you know, people...
Yeah, because now when he goes and he meets with the facility director, it's not, Chris from the chamber.
Right.
I mean, he actually knows. I mean, he could run a mold job now. He could run a commercial water job, and he has been. He's been on job sites, so yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of science behind all of those different divisions in the work that's been done and certain standards. And so one of the things that I'll tell folks who ask me about the business is you have to be careful when you're choosing a restoration company to do a water job in your home, because if it's not done to standard, if it's not done correctly, and a lot of that involves using the right technology, the right equipment, then 2 months later you're going to have a house full of mold because it wasn't done correctly, and so on and so forth. But yeah, there's a lot of technology. We use a tool called DocuSketch. So when we go into a home or a commercial facility, it's a 360 camera that you sit down on a tripod. I'll call it a tripod, and it takes a 360 view of the room, and then that information can be downloaded into the software that we use for billing and for our work with insurance adjusters and so on.
Give you like measurements and stuff?
Yeah, it will give you an entire sketch.
What kind of camera is it? Do you know? Is it is it like a big box?
No, it's smaller than your cell phone.
Really?
It's unbelievable what it does.
Yeah.
And it'll sketch the entire, each room, the hallway, I mean, everything.
Doors, windows,
because I've seen there's one,
and it'll do it to measurements.
I mean, it'll the name of it, but there's one that a lot of real estate companies or photographers use, and it's like this box. I can't remember the name of it. So I was curious.
There's another one out there called Matterport.
That's
it could be Matterport. Yes. So DocuSketch is, the similar tool as Matterport.
Yeah.
And, so for a technician, when it comes down to billing a job, a sketch has to be done and put into the software that is used, especially for insurance adjusters and so on. And that had to be done by hand for the longest time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And now with DocuSketch, we can do it. Yeah, and it does the measurements for you. It does everything for you. And the other thing that it does is it takes in essence, you're filming the condition of the facility when you get there. So you get pictures of all the contents that are in there. You get, the measurement of the room. You get the picture of what is damaged and what is not damaged. And then when you're done, we do a DocuSketch at the end of the project, and so you can see it as it's been restored to what we call pre-loss condition. Yeah. And it protects the homeowner, the business owner, and it protects us as a restoration company because we have the appropriate documentation.
That's awesome.
And there's some new technology that's similar.
You guys have to provide that stuff to like insurance companies.
We do,
and stuff.
Yeah. And there's talking about changing. So we're really, I think, just at a point, I would say, of implementing DocuSketch where we can use it for its full potential. There's a new software that's just come out that's similar in nature that we've been taking a look at to see if it's something that we want to implement. But at this point in time, we just felt like it wasn't the right time for a change,
Right.
I would say.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right, when you get rolling on something.
Yeah.
Well, we got something new here. to figure out.
Right. So
Yeah.
to your point, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you guys have like I'm sure you do. Like, it seems like all industries have like a national convention or
Yes.
something where
Yeah.
they show off all this crap.
We do, yeah. And you get. I mean, and there's all kinds of new vendors every year, and specifically on the technology side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, we use Insta360, and yeah, it's smaller than my phone, but that's what we use for like doing. We're Google Street View certified, so we could do like Google Street View, but like go into your business and walk through it. You know what I mean? If you want people to be able to come into your business and look around. But we also do it with a lot of content creation. Like, really, you could do some really neat stuff with them. So it's I'm sure it's probably a similar camera to that, but it probably has to have like laser built into it, I'd imagine, for the sketch or the measurements and stuff, maybe. But yeah, that's neat.
It's been very helpful, that's for sure, and made our jobs way more efficient. Well, now we can even have, maybe a technician do all the sketching, or do everything, set the camera up, and then we can have somebody back at the office, write the estimate, and so it's made things a lot more efficient.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How about obviously, we're a marketing company, so I love like hearing like how other people have grown and the change in marketing and advertising and stuff. What kind of like advertising and marketing you guys do right now? Is it just a lot of, I'd imagine, like developing those business relationships is a huge part of that with insurance adjusters and stuff like that. Is there anything else that you guys do?
Well, we identified Springfield was I'm trying to how would I say this? It's a very close-knit community, and everybody seems to buy local, right? So I feel like one of the big things that we did when we came into the market was to support all the local non-for-profits. Find out, which ones were the bigger ones, friend indeed, if you will, and big brothers, big sisters. Finding out who the folks are that really ran the Springfield community, what boards they were on for what non-for-profits. So we spent a lot of time and effort and resources. I would just call that piranha marketing, right? Different, building relationships through that avenue. For sure, we're doing social media. Jay Woodrum, we have a social media, I call him a director, I think. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yes. And he handles a lot of that. We used to do a lot of traditional advertising on TV, and then we did billboards over the years. I think one of the biggest things that really helped identify Peerless as a strong brand was we rebranded. Like, we took Peerless, and it was, I don't know if you've seen our logo, but it's red, it's got the star.
Yeah.
And so I hired a firm like you guys out of Decatur, Jones & Thomas, and said, hey, make our logo look like it's corporate or we're a national company.
Cool.
And so they came back with maybe 25 or 30 different logo ideas, but maintained the integrity of that original logo. And
how long ago did you guys do that?
gosh, that was back probably in 2000.
Okay.
Year 2000. So was that 22 years ago, 23 years ago? And then we put
That's good you did that. A lot of people try to hold on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and there's a point where it's just like, all right, we need to bring this up to date.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know what I mean? I think about that with our logo. I'm like, am I ever going to have to update this thing? And you don't think so, you know what I mean? But
Right.
there's especially from way back then, you know what I mean, to now, it's a big difference.
Yeah,
But
we put it on everything.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, I'd say, and now with everything being so digital, I don't believe we do any TV advertising, do we? I mean,
No.
we do some radio. We've identified that a lot of people, there's a big following for, Sam Madonia and that 1450 AM, crowd.
Yeah, there are a couple of personalities that people really enjoy.
And I would just say, and then it's just being out meeting with people. I mean, I'm just a huge believer that, I think about my own life experience personally and professionally. Everything good or great that's ever happened somehow revolves around relationships that you build and
They're
share
important.
with somebody.
It's one of the hardest things to do when you start a business.
Yeah.
Like, you probably don't remember, but right after I got Ubox going, I joined the chamber, and that was when you were president at the time, and we met back then. I remember coming to the chamber when it was at the old building.
Yeah, on 2nd Street. Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a new member.
Probably a new member orientation.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of awkward, like trying to go make those conversations and walk up to people or, things like that. So there were, at some of the events, there were a couple people that I knew that kind of helped me at least start kind of meeting people. But yeah, that's a weird thing when you're, so I try to remember that. And like when clients start with us that are new businesses, I try to invite them out. Like, hey, I'll be there. I'll introduce you to, you know what I mean? I try to help them.
Absolutely. It's nice to have somebody kind of drag you around.
Oh, yeah.
Let me introduce you to Brad Wike.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. You are exactly right.
Yeah.
And then especially if you take somebody who maybe is a little more introverted,
exactly.
It's even more challenging or awkward or difficult for folks to do.
So I appreciate people like, Steve Peralta. He's awesome. He talks about me all the time to people, and I don't know why we clicked or what happened there, but he's just very nice, and I don't know, we kind of clicked, and he's always suggesting and telling people about us, and
he's a great guy.
He's
people
a good
like
one.
that. It's just
he's
nice
a good one. I would say too, and it's not. I don't know that I would say it's was intentionally thought out to be a marketing piece, but people know Peerless is a company that delivers world-class service. Is something we talk about every day. It's one of our core values, and Brad's built a company on core values, and it really defines who he is, who the company is, who our people are. And we talked about this recently with Steve Thomas on the customer service little feature. We get feedback almost every day. We got an email late yesterday afternoon. Actually happens to be somebody that I used to work with at the chamber, and we've done carpets for them, and we're also doing a bid on something else for them right now. And I know this person really well, and they're not going to say it unless they mean it. And she took the time to call into the office and say, "Hey, I just want you to know that AJ did a awesome job." Those were her words.
That's awesome.
And,
so good to get feedback.
And we get that, and then we pass that along to all of our employees whenever we get that kind of feedback, because, and they were doing this long before I started at Peerless, but I'm kind of wired that way too, is, when you hold people up for doing things with excellence internally and celebrate what folks have done, it not only honors that individual, but it inspires that kind of customer service in our other folks.
Yeah.
And, I've talked to people, over the last 20 years who know Peerless, who've had a water job or a fire at their place of business or home, and that's all they talk about is the service that they delivered.
Awesome.
So this word of mouth of this is a company that is going to deliver what they say, and
it's
that
tough
they
too.
do great service for folks.
It always seems like getting a bad feedback or a review is so much easier than getting a good one.
Oh, without
you know what
doubt.
I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
most are good. I would imagine for you guys.
Right.
That, 98, 99% of them are probably great experiences.
Yeah, we'll get a bad one on
we
occasion,
do.
and we
We're not
agonize
perfect.
about
Oh, it's terrible.
It's agony.
And we do everything we can to just say, we're going to
right.
make it right, or we'll just refund the money. We're not going to argue with you, and because
Right.
we realize that, because we aren't perfect, right? And unfortunately, some of our folks that are out in the field aren't having a great day at home when they come into work that day, and therefore, whatever happens. But the one thing we can do is refund the money and just say, hey, ask for forgiveness and move on down the road in hopes that they don't tell 20 people how terrible it was. Keep your fingers crossed, if you will.
Brad was talking the other day in an internal meeting. He said, when you think about a job that we do, a restoration job, or really any job, you think about the circle of service, and you can get 9 out of 10 things right, but if you miss the 10th item,
and it could be one thing that's totally unrelated to clean carpet, right?
Yeah.
Like they could have the cleanest carpet, but we mishandled the bill or the quality check call, or maybe we backed into their yard on the way out and our guy didn't know it, and we left a rut in their yard, and they think we did it on, It's that kind of stuff.
And like you said, as soon as you get one of those, folks, that person tells 10 people, not just us. So but that's the case with any business, right?
Oh, for sure.
I don't know of any perfect ones,
right. Yeah,
but I think
a
everybody agonizes about those things.
I mean, we've had a misspelling on someone's post or something.
Yeah.
Like, that makes me look like an idiot. Yeah. I'm like, we'll change it.
We'll change
Sorry,
it. We're human.
We're pumping out thousands of pieces of content a month. You know what I mean? But we're pretty good. We've again, thinking about processes and stuff. That's this last year. We've very heavily focused on our process and how that works and making sure everything gets done and done correctly.
Sure.
And implementing software to do that. Because the way that we do things, there's no perfect software for us. We've tried them.
Sure.
So we started using this software that you can customize, and it's been very good. There's still a few flaws in it, but we give them feedback and they make updates and stuff like that. So that was a big project that Josh has been working on, and I think we're just finally getting there to where now it's like, all right, let's pour some fuel on the fire.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you want that process right. So again, you don't lose that quality of service.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's been interesting, trying to figure that all out and dial it in.
Yeah.
Because you guys have a lot of industry different things that I'm sure, but like ours, we do have industry things, but it's like, it seems like every one of them, it's like, all right, this doesn't work right for what we do.
Oh,
or this doesn't work right for how we do it.
Well, and we have that too.
Like,
we have a lot of different.
Yeah.
So we have on our dry cleaning, we have our point of sale barcoding system for the dry cleaning, and then we've got our accounting system, and then we've got.
And they don't connect.
Exactly. They don't interface.
Yeah.
And I mean.
Or they do almost.
Almost.
They
yeah.
do like
It's
8 out of 10
It doesn't
things.
import one
Yes.
field and it
Yeah.
messes
Yes.
everything
Yeah,
up.
but no question about it. Sometimes technology does not make things more efficient.
Yeah.
What have you found over the years? Like, you said you've done billboards and radio and different things. Like, how have you seen that change, and how like what I see with a lot of businesses, especially as the parents are kind of the head, but it's like the end of
Sure.
them being there, and they're probably going to move a step away soon. They're hesitant to change.
Sure.
And they're hesitant to, and that's where sometimes it's challenging for us, like coming in, like, this is what you need to do.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like radio, TV, all that stuff's going away in the next 5 years.
Right.
And then they're like, no way, it could never happen. But it has happened. You know what I mean? The TV took over from, radio back when everyone sat there around the radio and listened. And then, so I try to really pay attention to that. How, what kind of changes have you seen in the way you guys have done stuff with advertising and stuff that worked really well for a while, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's not working so well.
Well, I would say that being early at something and being wrong feel the same to me. So what I mean by that, SEO, right? Back when, you could hire firms like you guys to, get us placed in the, am I saying that right?
Yeah, higher up in Google.
Higher up in Google. I mean, I feel like I spent a lot of money for that to happen, and we got zero business out of it.
Yeah.
So when I say being early and being wrong felt the same at that time. Now I would say, we track our referrals, and I'd say one in three
A lot of places don't.
are Google referrals,
Yeah.
which
Really?
blows me away.
That's great.
I mean,
Yeah.
where before it was,
Found you on the internet.
Yeah, found you on the internet. I'm like, it blows me away.
Yeah.
And so, which means that the dollars we're spending, we're probably, and we're spending a significant amount of money on that Google placement, and then there's some premium
Google
deal
advertising,
or whatever that is that Jay got us. We had to have a background check done on me and all this, but it places us at an even higher level on Google, and it's working. And so we've certainly seen that evolution, and I'm glad
And that's great, because those are people looking for you.
Correct.
You know
yes.
what I mean? So
yeah.
it is important to have good placement on there. It's tough when you offer a lot of services, though,
And that's what
to
he
get
said.
that placement.
Yes.
I have, various customers that offer all of these wide variety of services, and it's like, if it was just dry cleaning, I could probably tell you that there's a high chance I'll get you up there.
Right, exactly. No, I know you're
But
absolutely
you're
right.
like, what do you want to definitely be found for? You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yep.
And then obviously Google Ads is completely different. You're just paying to be at the top specifically, but that
Yeah.
organic placement on Google, and it's frustrating because there's so many companies like ours that come in and tell clients like, oh yeah, we can get you there for this price. And I'm like, they can't tell you that.
Right.
There's no exact thing you can do to put you at the very top of Google organically.
And that frustrated me early on, because we had hired a firm out of the St. Louis area that did exactly what you said, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, can you guarantee me? Can you refund me the money? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if you have water in your basement, I'm going to guarantee it's going to be dry when I walk out of there.
Right.
Okay. And if it's not, you don't pay. You don't pay for it. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that certainly now we embrace the digital technology side outside of advertising. Is that fair?
Yeah.
But I think for us, honestly, it's personal interaction, it's relationship building is still important in our business. We find in Central Illinois, so there's no local claims offices anymore. So State Farm used to have a claims office here.
That's what this was.
Yeah,
This was
farmers
insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so and then there was a Pekin Insurance office and a Country Companies office and a State Farm and so on, American Family. Well, those are all gone now. I mean, there's still Country Companies here, but all the other companies, the adjusters work from their home. And so those relationships now are harder and harder to build. And we still invest time in doing that, but relationships still are relevant in our business. And particularly, we do spend a lot of time calling on insurance agents. We have something that's kind of unique to our industry. We have a house, and we call it the flood house.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and so that's been a huge driver for our organization on the revenue side. So, I bought this home, gutted it, put sprinklers in it, we flood it, we bring insurance agents and property management companies in, and we show them how we dry that structure.
Yeah.
And then put them through a class and feed them lunch, and it's
That's
a hands-on
awesome.
deal. So it's kind of cool. It's different.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really unique.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only a handful around the country as I understand it. And
Seems like a great idea.
Yeah, it's very.
Is that here in Springfield?
Here in Springfield, yeah,
Nice.
right next to our office. And kind of the funny story about that is when I bought that property and we added on to the back and built a warehouse, but it's a pretty tight corner.
Is it right by your place over there?
It's right. Yeah, it's right there on that corner. And so we hired the contractor, and on day one he came in and he was putting those fences up, because there's a lane there, and then there's this house across the street. Well, old Jim, the ex-Marine, lived in that house, and he came over and started giving me the business, telling me about this and that and everything else, and then of course one of my vans, it was backing up and it had a loud beeper on it, and you know what I mean, and it was one thing after another, and he's reading me the riot act. Well, this goes on for a week, and I said, Jim, listen, I can't have you in my life like this. We're good people. We're going to make this corner better. The neighborhood's going to, we're here to help, not make your life more miserable. I said, so here's the deal. I don't want to see you on my property anymore. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have your house appraised. I'm going to buy it for the appraised value, and I'm going to move you and your wife wherever you want to go for free. I'll pack all your stuff up, but you and I, this isn't going to work.
Hilarious.
And so Jim, he's looking at me. He says, well, you'll do that? And I said, absolutely. So it was like, 3 weeks later, house is appraised. I buy the house. Now I got a house. I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. And we were having kind of a brainstorming meeting and said, what do we do with this thing? I didn't want to get into the rental house business, and it's not in the greatest area of town. And somebody said, what if we made it a flood house and used it for training our own people?
There you go.
So that's how that came to be, and it's
That's
been
a great story, and I love it.
Yeah,
Story.
That's
so
awesome.
and Jim and I became good friends. And Jim and I are tight.
You were supposed to be out of my life. No, that's cool though.
Yeah.
That's nice he did that. And he's probably I could understand. He's probably just he doesn't have anything else to do.
No, exactly.
Well,
So
we're
it's
a
like-
24/7
Yeah.
business on the
And-
restoration side.
Yeah, he had a good point. Yeah.
So I mean, we get a call at 2 a.m. that
Right, gotta get
somebody's
going.
facility's flooded, and our trucks are rolling out of the warehouse right by his house.
and you can hear him. I mean,
yeah.
those beepers
And-
are loud. Yeah.
That's understandable. That's funny though. Well, that was
Yeah.
nice he did that.
Yeah.
2 problems there with one stone.
Yeah.
The flood house is cool though. Yeah, that's neat. I'll have to check that out sometime.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat though. You talk about the personal, people, making those relationships. One thing you might think about is, and I don't know, you might already do this, I don't know, but if you put yourselves in videos more, talking about different things, seeing your faces out there, when you go to these events or meet new people, what we find is that, for example, one of our clients was in Farm and Home, and he's didn't have his business T-shirt on or anything. He's just in line checking out. Some lady comes up to him, she's like, "Hey, you're that dog training guy." And he's like, "What do you?" Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, I see all your videos. I know you." And he's like, he's blown away. He's like, and we just hear that so much from clients, and it's awesome to hear that because they're becoming known as that guy or that girl or that person.
So you're doing the videos for them, and then putting it out on the internet or
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll come in and capture a bunch of content, bring it back here, create a bunch of content, and then schedule all that out on social media forums so they know they're getting this many posts a week or a month or whatever, and then do a whole ad strategy behind that. But I do see you guys have some videos that looked good.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
But just something to think about. It creates that personal connection without ever necessarily meeting them. But then when you do, they feel like they know you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I found that to be very helpful for myself. Early on, I just kind of became known as that social media guy.
Sure.
So people reach out with questions or whatever, and obviously that opens up opportunities sometimes.
No, it makes sense. And I'll tell you what, I'm fascinated by TikTok. Okay, and people laugh at me.
It's
I
a beast.
but I am. But I had, and what I mean by that is I love to cook, right? So
got into the cooking ones on there.
Yeah, the cooking ones, and I like to hunt. So, anyways, the things that I like to do. But it's amazing how those folks market their spices or their herbs, or so really that's what they're doing. When I'm learning a recipe, they're really marketing Dano's spices or whatever.
Makes
it is.
it so good.
I
need that.
And I got to get that. And I can't tell you how, as a consumer. So I am in 100% agreement with what you're saying.
What's your what do you like to cook? What's your favorite?
Oh gosh, probably my go-to meal, which I just made the other night for some friends and family, is braised short ribs with truffle risotto and it's really decadent. And I love truffle. I love truffle oil, all things truffle butter. Yeah. It was just a meal with truffles in it. I made truffle lasagna, so.
Yeah, I just made some. I know. Well, when you invite me over for dinner, I'm putting some truffles.
I will. I will do that. We got some leftovers in our office.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just come to the office for the leftovers. I made some buffalo. My wife's a vegetarian, and I was like, I feel like cooking something tonight. What do you want? She's like, I kind of feel like buffalo cauliflower, wing. I made some of those the other day in the air fryer. They were
really good.
Yeah, super easy. I had no idea it would be so easy.
Yeah. Do you use your air fryer a lot?
Oh my god, for our kids, for sure, a lot. Okay. But even for us, quite a bit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, things falling apart. It's almost time for new.
One of the downsides of working at Peerless, I've gained like 20 pounds. So.
Yeah, because if I have nothing to do, it's a hobby for me. I just cook and then I bring it all into the office and get everybody's opinion, and they might be like, I don't really like that batch of chili, and I'm like, well, I did kind of jazz it up a little bit. I won't do that anymore.
Yeah, cooking's fun. I just bought one of those flat tops.
Oh, you did?
I haven't got to do a lot on it.
Okay.
But
it's
we had the whole family over and just put out all of what did I make? Fajitas.
Yeah.
Oh my god, just covered that thing in
awesome.
veggies. And it's fun. It cooks fast and a lot at one time.
I love that. Cool. Yeah.
Downside of them is you're not really supposed to leave them outside. So
is that right?
Yeah, I hate storing it in the garage.
Yeah,
got so much crap in there these days with all the kids and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, you played football in college. I heard a story or two here.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. It's really irrelevant. So.
But you got a championship ring, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was great. It was awesome. It was. It was just a sense of great accomplishment, really as a part of a team, you know, but individually too.
How long were you on did you play?
I played all 4 years in college. Nice. So, I grew up here. As I mentioned, I went to Griffin High School, SHG now, and then was fortunate enough to, get noticed and get recruited and went to University of Miami back in the early 80s. So I played on the first national championship team in 1983.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, it was I'll tell you, we're talking business today as well, obviously. And besides my dad, who was a business owner, our head coach was a great visionary. And some of the lessons I learned in the 4 years that I played football are some of the very lessons or the very things that I do every day. From, creating and casting a vision, for what needs to be done, what this needs to look like, what our hopes and dreams are, to how do you set goals to get there, and how do you grow yourself and develop yourself to get there. And anyway, so Brad mentioned earlier this locker room mentality. He played college football as well, and there is just a different, for me, there was just a different vibe there that you don't find anywhere else.
Yeah,
and a have each other's back, kind of give it everything you've got. Mm-hmm. And when you think you've given it everything you've got, you probably still have more left in the tank to go further mentality. And I'm probably kind of old school in that way. But it was a great experience.
I bet.
That's and the
awesome.
best part was
There's just not many people that get
right.
that. You know what I mean? In their careers. Or
maybe the
college
coolest
or
part about it was all my family we played in the Orange Bowl that year, which happened to be our home stadium. So it was like a home game for us. But so my mom, my dad, my 3 brothers, so everybody got to be there.
Wow.
So it was a really. To
That's
me,
awesome.
the coolest part about it was celebrating it with. It was great to
Afterwards,
celebrate
yeah.
with my teammates, but it was even better to have my whole family there and to be
Yeah.
able to like go hang with them that night when the game finished. And
I can't imagine. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played a little bit of basketball in high school, but not like, well, growing up into high school. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Very neat. What? Let's run back to that question. Hardest part of being a business owner.
Yeah. Well, I think finding and hiring the best people and then keeping them. That's a real challenge because really everything we do has to be done through people.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that we do is not a lot of fun. I mean, and what I mean by that is raw sewage backups, and they don't happen 8 to 5. They happen at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. They happen on holidays.
How's that work? Are people just on call?
They're on call, and then they get a bonus for going out and actually providing the service. So financially, it can be very beneficial for folks that are on call if they want to make money, But when they hire on, we let them know it's 24/7. Now, you're not going to be on call every Christmas, but you're going to have to take a Christmas rotation. And every year on Christmas or Thanksgiving, or we have a water job or a fire come in. Yeah. I mean, I can remember when I was running the operations, I'm walking out of my house with, my 2 boys, and one's 6 and one's 4, and we're going to church, and I get a call and I got to go to a fire job. That's just part of what we do. And then keeping people motivated and, that can be challenging. I mean, we're in attics that are 120 degrees. We remove insulation. We do trauma scene cleanups. Trauma scenes.
I don't even like to get in my attic.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah.
I've been up there one time in our house that we moved into a couple of years ago. It's just a pain in the ass to get into, and there's it's just,
And then the other thing that's a real challenge, and it's not anything I can do about it, but the state of Illinois doesn't make it easier for small businesses to succeed. They really don't.
Is for sure.
And it's very frustrating. I can cast one vote at the election and hope for the best, but
so everybody agrees on it. Any small business owner, and
it's
people don't understand.
I know. But again, I mean, you got to give us the rules and we got to play by them, and that's with a winning attitude and just do the best you can. But it's certainly not getting easier to conduct business in the state of Illinois.
Do you ever feel like they're trying to put small businesses out of business?
It sure sometimes feels that way. Now, he's more educated because of, he's been involved in more policy stuff through the chamber and maybe more educated on that level. But, boy, sometimes, and I'm not one to ever, stick my head in the sand, but, boy, sometimes it's hard to read those, the Manufacturing Association newsletter. Like I read today before we came over here, I'm like, unbelievable, some of the things, that's going on in politics.
I hate politics, too.
Yeah,
just having to think about them or anything. It's like, can we just operate over here?
Yeah.
Do our thing.
Geez.
But, Chris, what else do you, I always say, we have go ahead.
What have you found, you say like keep an employee, retaining them. What have you found from like the past to now to be the main thing employees like appreciate or want, whether it's higher pay or more time off or better benefits? Is there something that you've seen, and has that changed over the years?
Boy, that's a great question
because
we're in the middle of, I would say, a frustrating time with our organization. I don't feel like loyalty is quite as important to people as it used to be. Mm-hmm. I feel like sometimes, and I know I'm not going down a negative rabbit hole here, but sometimes loyalty feels like it's a one-way street.
Right.
And so what we've tried to do is always be there for our folks, and help them out when they need help and give them time off. I mean, gosh, 20 years ago, there was no such thing as paid time off in our organization. You know what I mean? You had, 2 weeks vacation, the end.
Right.
Now, that is not how it is today. Right? Am I correct in that? I mean, I can't tell you how many of my employees are off, and sometimes it's paid and sometimes it's not. And, it's just hard to get the workforce today. Managing the workforce today is unlike anything I've ever experienced. Mm-hmm. And it keeps evolving and changing and becoming more difficult and challenging. Because when we're delivering promises, right, and we're out selling and talking to people, I mean, we've got to have those people on the bench that are ready to go when we need them, you know. And oftentimes, and I don't know where the people went either. Like the people that we were hiring 5 years ago aren't there today. I don't know.
And every industry's experiencing the same thing, right? We all hear it from healthcare to restoration to it's everywhere.
I hate to say it, but I think a lot of people have learned how to game the system.
Yep, I agree.
And not
absolutely,
or work very little, or work it without the government knowing,
right?
Under the table type stuff.
Yeah. You know, we did a 30% pay increase across the board a year ago, non-merit based. Okay.
Wow.
Because of wage compression. The people that we were hiring at $17 an hour, you know, now we had to hire them at 20. Well, the people that were at 20 that are, you know, have been with me 10 years and are, you know, leaders had to go to 23, 24.
They're like, well, what the hell? I've been here.
Yeah. So, I don't know the answer to your question because it's still evolving. We're still trying to figure that out. I feel like we do more for our people today than we've ever done, and we just did an employee survey. So we asked our people, what do you think? What do you think about us? You know, are we as good as we hope we think we are?
Yeah.
Are we living the core values?
We did one of those, you know, I don't know how many months ago, but a while back, I just did one, and it was actually anonymous because I just wanted the feedback.
Yeah, ours was too.
And then when I got it, I just asked everybody. I'm like,
yeah,
I got some really good feedback here. I was like, I really want to discuss this with everybody. Yeah. Is there any chance that you guys would be open to this? If one person isn't open to claiming their survey, then we won't do it.
Right.
I said, but if everybody is open to it, I would really love to talk to you guys about this.
And what was
what was
the
feedback? Yeah, me too.
Did they agree to do it?
Well, the number one thing was more paid time off.
Yeah.
And they got more paid time off from it. So it was just good. I didn't know. You know what I mean? And I try to encourage, like, talk to me.
Sure.
Like if you're having problems, if you're not happy with something, if, you know, like you guys were talking earlier about, you know, your friendship and you didn't want to lose that.
Yeah.
Well, like I always said to the team, I'm like, everybody here is in a relationship.
Right.
Like whether you know it or not, we're in a relationship. And in relationships, they don't work unless you talk.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if it's bad, if it's good. And I was actually, I got this feedback from my team, not in that survey and at another point, but I didn't realize it, but I would focus on the negative things, and I didn't praise the positive enough.
Gotcha.
And I didn't realize I was doing it, and it was brought to my attention, and I was like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad. Yeah. But I grew up like that.
Sure.
Like, my father would always, and I actually like it now because I'm always prepared. I always say prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Right.
So anytime I had an idea or anything like that, I would go to my dad because I knew he would tell me all the negative, like possible things that would happen, and then I could plan for them.
Right.
And that's, I mean, you got to do that. So, and I'm really hard on myself. Also, I hold myself to a very high standard. So it was more like if there was an error in a post or a piece of content, like I'd get upset about it, you know, and I would talk to the team about it and blah blah. But it was always when it was negative.
Sure.
But there's so much positive that I just figured that everyone knew, like, you know, 95% of our stuff is positive. It's just It's just like, you know, whatever 2, 3, 4, 5%. I don't know what it is, but is, you know, just a mishap or something negative or something that client probably doesn't even notice, but I just hold us to a higher standard.
Right.
And I just want to point out. So I've tried to pivot that, you know what I mean? I'm like, I was very glad it was brought to my attention. I try to give more praise over the good stuff.
Yeah. You know, along the lines of what you're talking about, one of the things Brad says a lot, and I completely agree, and I think I've tried to do this throughout my professional life, is to praise people in public, and then when there's areas for growth, those things happen in private. There's a lot to be said about that. You know, we had some things in our survey that we're going to be talking about and addressing. I would say overall there were no big surprises, or really even any surprises.
No.
The things that emerged about our culture, feeling like a family, like a team, some really good things. I remember it seems like I'd have to go back and reread the comments again, the comment section of it, and ours was done anonymously as well. There seemed to be a lot about feeling appreciated. People like to be, you know, when people do something well, they want to know it, they want to hear it, and I think they want others to know that they've done it well.
Yeah.
As well.
That's
Does
correct.
That make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. And the with our survey, it came back predominantly that everybody felt like they were part of a family.
That's good.
But like with any family, there's dysfunctionalities in every family. I don't care how great you are,
Right,
family-wise. There are issues, man.
Right.
You're
in a relationship.
I can back that one up. Of course.
Yeah, and communication.
It's not a Bartlett vacation if there's not a huge fight and my dad doesn't go, we're leaving, pack up the car.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I don't know. I always say, be careful what you ask for because you're going to get it. And we've always I tried to develop this culture with our organization that we're transparent. We share our financials with everybody, so everybody knows if we're having a really great month or
really?
not a very
That's
good month.
interesting.
And that's a rare thing for many small companies because so many people are
very
private
interesting.
and they want to hold their cards close to them.
Have you had issues with that? That's an interesting concept. I
No,
guess.
no, not at all. No. In fact, because and it gives me integrity, or it gives.
There's no well, look at look at this money we're making. What do we do? You know what I mean? Like,
and absolutely, and that's somewhat that's on me to educate them on what that means, right? So I think more importantly, are the things that I worry about the most is when we're losing $100,000 a month. If I'm an employee, I'm like, am I gonna have a job next month? I mean, should I be looking around, right?
Yeah.
A guy like Chris comes on board, and he's a well compensated individual. He's got 4 kids and mouths to feed and colleges to pay for, and he's probably wondering, man, do we lose $50,000 like every month? I'm like, yeah, when we're slow, we do, yeah, and it's not good, and it keeps me awake at night. Or wow, we made $350,000 last month because we worked 28 days and we traveled to St. Louis, or we sent equipment to Florida. That's a lot of money. Are you giving people bonuses? No, because we might lose $50,000 a month for the next 5 months. And here's the history of our company. And by the way, our work comp just went up, 38%. Or our health insurance went up, and you know what I mean. So what we do is we share that with everybody.
Man. I've thought about that.
Yeah.
I just think, especially with younger people, I just don't think they'd understand.
Yeah.
Like, but from just from what I've seen, I mean, maybe they would. I don't know.
So the whole concept for me came from
the idea of it.
The whole concept for me came from a book called Jack Stack, The Great Game of Business. And they bought International Harvester out of bankruptcy, and they thought that the only way that they would get this thing up and running again was if everybody, all hands on deck, right? From the janitor all the way up the chain of command. And I went down to his class down there, and I have very few people that I cross paths with that think it's a good idea, and I don't argue with anybody. I mean, it's just the way I like to do business.
Yeah. I love the idea.
Yeah, and
I just worry about the. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's been a good thing for our company. In tough times, I think it does. It causes division managers to think differently, make sure that we're not paying overtime for things that we don't need to be paying overtime for.
Do you pivot your advertising heavily on what services you're advertising? I would think. Like when there's no crazy storms, or like you said, there's Mother Nature hasn't done anything. It's like,
correct.
Well, there's a lot of services with the duct cleaning and all that stuff that you could just push super heavy when that's not going to try to make up for that. I
think we do. I think Jay does some of that. When we have big rainstorms like in the spring and things like that. I think he'll increase some of that. The advertising.
That's what I would think. That it would just be like, when this is happening,
right?
And
if you're a roofing company and a hailstorm just happened, you're like. All right, let's go.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would say, a number of our folks, certainly for me, when I'm out just talking to people, I oftentimes talk about kind of what Brad refers to as our core business lines, our dry cleaning, our carpet cleaning, which we do residential and commercial carpet cleaning. So these are on upholstery cleaning, tile and grout cleaning, air duct cleaning. These are ongoing services and ongoing needs that we all have.
Sure.
Always.
And so, and to me, those are the door openers, if you will.
Yeah.
What I kind of refer to as our retail, if you will. Right. It opens the door with people. If we're doing your commercial if we're cleaning your carpet in here, your tile and grout, and I don't want a pipe to break, but when it's below zero for 4 days this winter and
You're
pipe breaks, you're going to know who to call
right.
to come make that right for you. So
And that's kind of why.
So we do a good bit of that. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's kind of why, like, when people have like random social media questions or something, like, I still tend to like answer or whatever, or talk to them about it. But sometimes it's frustrating because that person, like, this person's never done any business with us. They keep asking me a lot of questions, though. But at the same time, it's like, well, maybe when the time comes, like, if they keep asking questions, eventually, they'll need it or lose somebody or whatever.
Like, how much of your business grows because of word of mouth? A big chunk of it, or a little bit?
It's actually pretty funny. I never, until a few months ago, we never had a salesperson.
Okay.
And everything was pretty much all word of mouth.
Okay.
Or someone seeing content that I made.
Gotcha.
But never did a lot of heavy marketing.
Okay.
I just made fun content.
Yeah, cool.
Just did what I wanted to do, make content that I liked. And then really just clients, man, like, the word spread. I mean, a lot of business owners know each other from networking and stuff. And, when you increase someone's business 30-40%, that they're going to tell some people about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I hate putting numbers out there. I usually never, like, well, what are you going to, can we expect from this?
Right.
That's a different conversation. Like, let's talk what you expect. What's your ROI?
Right.
And I'll tell you if it's realistic or not. But I don't want to guarantee, like, hey, we're going to grow your business 40%.
Sure.
But, I mean, one client stopped with us because they were too busy. They couldn't get enough people to work there to do it.
Awesome.
And I mean, it's not everybody,
That's awesome.
but you also have to give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Sometimes clients start and they're like 1 month in, they're like, oh, well, nothing's happening. And I'm like, give it 60, 90 days, man. It's marketing. You got to get that flow going.
It's like business development.
Yeah, it takes time, and you know what I mean? But
you got to plant seeds, you got to water the seeds, you got to follow up on them. You got to.
I always tell people consistent content and consistent advertising of that content, and then you become known as the guy or the girl or the company.
I agree.
Whatever, so
and I think everything that we do, and particularly with our brand, it all builds on each other, right? I mean, from our van, you might be driving behind our van, and you might drive by my office, or you might see a carpet cleaning van in your neighbor's parking lot, or then you might see us at a SHG event, or whatever it is, right? Or at a chamber event where we sponsored the other night at LRS, they had the
shoes.
Shoes that was crazy. That was a big turnout.
That was a huge turnout.
Wow.
And we were one of the sponsors with Masco on that, and I think it just it all adds up.
It does. You got to do a lot of things for sure.
Yeah. And this guy knows a ton of people in Springfield. It's unbelievable,
How would you think your business now, if you had to, and if you want to answer this, you don't have to, but if you had to put a percentage on like Springfield compared to Decatur, is Springfield becoming larger than your Decatur?
It's starting to, it is. And for a lot of different reasons, because Decatur's had a tough go, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people have left, and over the last 15 years, I'd say 35 or 40% of what we called our high-end retail customers, the people that lived in the higher-end homes that worked for ADM, 80 of those people moved to Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Tate and Lyle moved to Plainfield. Wagner Castings is no longer around. If it wasn't for the hospitals over there, they're some of the largest employers of people over there, but those folks are gone now.
Yeah.
And so Springfield is definitely getting very close to being bigger than Decatur. And I would say in certain business lines, it is without a doubt, and they're the higher, maybe revenue drivers for a company. So
it's awesome.
And we serve folks outside of those. Brad mentioned the Boeing work.
Yeah.
So if you look at a map and you got Springfield and Decatur, you could draw a big circle around that. Probably.
What's besides the Boeing stuff in St. Louis? What's the furthest you guys have really gone?
Well, we have gone. We've traveled for hurricanes before.
Okay.
It's just hard to make money. Believe it or not, there's a lot of business down there, but you're paying per diems in hotels, you're working in environments you don't necessarily know about, and where you're going, and there's just a lot of obstacles that sometimes. So we'll send equipment to the hurricanes, and that equipment will get rented out by other companies, and we'll split revenue with them. Back when mold was really big, we were working with doing all the Walmart eye care centers and the pharmacies. Because the way those buildings were designed, they were improperly. There was moisture being caught between the drive-it exterior and the inside of the drywall.
Oh, wow!
And so we traveled to North Dakota, South Dakota, Missouri, all over. Now I would say 80% of our business is within 100 miles.
Yeah. That's awesome, though.
And St. Louis, we have a partner down there called Woodard, and they're a really large restoration company. We kind of have the same values in the way we treat customers and the way we provide service. And they don't do commercial ventilation cleaning, so we do theirs for them as a subcontractor.
Nice.
And then they got hit with 10 inches of rain about, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And
I remember that. Yeah.
And so we did a large.
We had a dealership down there. And
did you?
We were like that. We were supposed to go down for. We're like, I think they're underwater.
Yeah. But we're the most efficient, and we're really good. I'd say within 2 hours of our Springfield and Decatur locations. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
We do a lot of work in Peoria. Yeah. So yep.
Yeah, I hadn't even had a chance to tell you. We're just literally as we were getting ready to walk out of the office, got a call from somebody up in Moline who has could be a large air duct cleaning.
Oh, good.
Job.
Okay, yeah,
and
very nice.
So again, the name recognition and the word on the street, if you will, because others who've had air ducts done passed our name along.
Yeah, and we're members of this group called Restoration Affiliates, and it's a national organization with some of the largest independent contractors. And so, if they may have agreements with large property management companies, and they're in, say, Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
They have a building in Moline, and they'll
go.
call us and say, can you go up there? So
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, it's a great story. I love hearing businesses grow and doing well and providing that many jobs.
Sure.
And being here local.
Well, and thank you for having us. This is cool.
For sure.
Yeah, this is great.
No, thank you. It's always fun having these conversations and learning people's stories.
Yeah, and you have a cool place here.
Appreciate
what I mean?
that.
Yeah, it's hip in here. I like it.
I didn't work hard on it.
I didn't really know what to expect, but it's got a cool vibe.
It's kind of weird because it's like I really love it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's my kind of ultimate creation, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something about just being in the garage next door that was like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get the grind.
Yeah. So if you're certain people embrace the daily grind and enjoy it. Yeah. That's probably what you're. Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I always joke around. I was like, I'm gonna put a desk out in the garage here, so just work out there every once in a while.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we never forget our roots, and when we were grinding back in the 80s and early 90s, we ran all the businesses out of this small little dry cleaning plant in a fire building that is about the half of the size of this building, and I don't know how we did it.
I don't either. Knowing what I know
what we have today, we have 25,000 square feet of warehouse space and vaults and forklifts and high tech stuff. And back then we had none of that,
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
I know we did all of the stuff we're doing here in that, and this is like 7,000, 6,500, 70,000, 7,000 square feet, something like that. And we were in like 1,200 over there.
Right.
Trying to do stuff in it, but it was like it just took longer.
Sure.
The main thing here is we can create faster.
Right.
From this podcast, like before, like this table was our conference room table.
Sure.
And either this stuff was left up, so we're having business meetings and all this shit sitting here, or we had to break it down, set it up, break it down.
Oh yeah, that's how we were. We were moving things 2 and 3 times to get one thing done.
So,
no question about it. Yeah.
So this just stays set up like
this is the room.
How often do you do these?
We for a while we were trying to do them once a week, and we did that for a long time. During the build out of this building, I kind of put the whole thing on pause just because we were so busy.
Yeah.
And then trying to help manage this and checking on things. And then we came back after we were in here and had this all done, and we were doing them pretty well there. But again, it just has gotten busy. So we haven't done one for a couple weeks, but I want to get back into it. We're starting to get to a place again with the processes, the team that's getting put in place.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to do, honestly, I've considered like multiple a week, but not always somebody like maybe bring in, have another team member in here, and maybe we're just talking about something we created recently and breaking it down, talking about the story of filming this video.
Yeah.
Shorter ones, those would be like shorter ones, but we're about to heavily pour some fuel on the fire, both on the content side of content we're creating and just the growth side.
Awesome.
So it's very exciting. But
no, I love it.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And definitely check this out. We're on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. Anywhere. How about finding you guys? Any specific website? The website, Peerless?
Yeah, it's www.peerlessrestoration.com.
Peerlessrestoration.com.
And then it's got all of our services, all of our contact information, correct?
Yep.
And
Everything there.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram.
Instagram.
Cool.
So I think we're on all of that.
All right, check them out and contact them for your restoration needs,
right.
your cleaning
Yes.
needs. I had no idea you guys did so many different things, so that's awesome.
And if anybody ever wants to come check out the flood house, we
I
want to give you
wanna
a
go
tour.
over there.
We'll let you know when we have our
Yeah, I
next
wanna
class
come over
scheduled.
there.
Seriously.
Yeah.
For real, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely
Cool.
do that. All right, thanks
Awesome.
everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.